Hey everybody, Charles here. Welcome to Backroads Living. In today's video, we're going to be talking about people from the Appalachia and some of the terms and jargon, yes, that's a term, jargon, that they use in their everyday life, or that they used to use very regularly. Not so much anymore, but we still use it from time to time depending on who we're speaking to. If we're speaking to another Appalachian, we might use that jargon because we know that they're going to understand what we say. So hang in there and let's get right on into it, okay? The first thing we're going to look at today are hillbilly words that are used to interchange for curse words. Yeah, slang talk. And one of those words that we're going to use is dag nabbit. Have you ever heard anybody say that? Or gall darn it? Well, you have to understand, the folks in the Appalachia, they don't use curse words much. Very rarely will you hear one use a curse word. And especially what these words might imply, because it's a way to keep from using God's name in vain. That's what these two words are for. Gall dang it. You've made somebody mad when you get them to say that. Another word that folks use here in Appalachia is tarnation. What in tarnation have you been doing that for? That's another word, so they don't have to use a curse word. Tarnation is a substitute for damnation. That way they don't have to curse at people when they when they talk to them. I don't know how many times I've heard my grandmother or one of my parents use that word tarnation. Well, I'll beat the tarnation out of you. What made you do that? So if anybody ever tells you they're going to beat the tarnation out of you, or they start talking like that to you, you might want to be careful because you may get in trouble. People had to be mad to use these kind of words, gall dang it and tarnation. A lot of people in the mountains of the Appalachia, and now this stretches all the way down probably from Georgia, Alabama, up through Tennessee and Kentucky. And you'll find people nowadays scattered all over the United States that were hillbillies or raised in the Appalachia. But back in the day, people in the Appalachia had a lot of gumption. Yeah, had lots of gumption. That meant that they were enterprising people, and they could make do in the setting they lived in. They were intelligent hillbillies or intelligent Appalachian people. So anytime you saw somebody with a lot of gumption, they was an important fella. They were a good working fella normally. The next thing we want to talk about is, let's call it putting on the feed bag. Well, if you heard somebody say they were getting ready to put on the feed bag, that meant they were getting ready to eat. And a lot of times, folks would say, let me put you together a feed bag, and you take it with you. Well, that was nothing more than what they called a poke or a brown paper bag of food that you carry with you and eat on your way to wherever you was going when you got hungry. Just putting on the feed bag, you know, like they put feed bags on horses and mules and things like that. That's all it meant, was food. So let's talk about food just a little bit. And one of the first things that comes to mind are greens. And anything that grew in the garden, basically, that had big leaves on it, or grew in your yard that had big leaves on it, were greens. They were made for salads. They were like turnip greens and mustard greens. And anything that had green leaves on top of them, they were just called greens. And in most cases, they were seasoned with stuff like hog meat of some kind, and maybe even bacon grease. Another term that goes along with food in the Appalachia is not real common in today's society, but I was in a grocery store a few years back and I saw this young lady way down on the far end of the aisle. I've known her a long time, most of her life. And I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And she said, "I sure am hungry." And I said, "Well, I am too." And she said, "You know, it's probably not a good thing to come to the grocery store when you're hungry." And I said, "Yeah, I know what you mean. We spend too much when we come to the grocery store like that." So that's a term that's been used for many, many years, meaning that you're hungry. Yeah. And the term sure, I sure am hungry. Sure means sure. Appalachian Talk. Hillbillies, you know, the folks from the mountains. Born and raised in the mountains, proud people. We are. Another term that we use here in the Appalachian, not often anymore, you rarely hear it ever used anymore, but one of the terms that was used a whole lot was icebox. Now that didn't mean a cooler like you go to Walmart and buy, put ice in it, stick your beverages in it. An icebox was your refrigerator. That was simply what you just put your food in to keep it cold, keep it from running, was your icebox. Everybody didn't have an icebox, but those that did sure was fortunate. Another term that's very hillbilly, and if you've ever watched the Beverly Hillbillies, you'll be very familiar with this term, and that is victuals, with a V, victuals. Yeah, Granny used it on the hillbillies a lot. Victuals was basically just your food that you ate. She had those pot passers, those big long pot passers on that fancy dining room table that she would scoot the victuals around with. She'd scoot a kettle of victuals from one end of the fancy table to the other. So victuals is another term that we used a lot. Another term we used in the Appalachian was maters. Yes, maters. Most people had never heard that term outside of the Appalachia, but it was simply used for tomatoes. It was a short, we shorten words a lot here in the Appalachian hillbilly language. We shorten a lot of words. Country folk have a tendency to do that. They say it's lazy talking. Could be, I don't know, but boy, I tell you, a good mater sandwich would sure be good right about now. The riper they are, the better they are. That's for certain. Another term we use here in the Appalachians is sweet milk. I've used that pretty much all my life, and I had a friend of mine ask me what sweet milk was. And, well, sweet milk isn't your sweet condensed milk that, hello pretty, that you buy in the can to cook with. To the Appalachian folks, sweet milk is, well, just like your 2% milk or your whole milk. Anything that's not buttermilk, that's sweet milk that we drink, like with our cereal or with our cornbread or whatever we may be using. But sweet milk, yeah. Another term in the cooking area is taters. Yep, short for potatoes. Taters. Everybody has fried taters with cornbread and beans. Man, that's a good meal. And if you really want to spice it up, throw you some maters in on the side. A little bit of salt on them and lips smacking good. Let's move on to some basic terms that Appalachians use in pretty much everyday speech. Phrases that really have nothing to do with meanings or individual words, but these words are part of the hillbilly slang, and I think you'll recognize a few of them, and some of them you may not. One of them is fixin' to. You might say, "Well, I was a fixin' to go down there and check the mailbox. Or Grandma might have said, John, I thought you was going to fix that building up there. And John would answer and say, well, I was a-fixing to, but something come up. That just means that you're just getting ready to do something. Yeah, you're fixing to. Has nothing to do with literally fixing like food or something like that, but you're getting ready to do something. Another one that maybe a whole lot of people have not heard is a lick and a promise. That boy come up here, he worked on my shed, and all he done was collected his money and got gone. He just give it a lick and a promise, hoping it'd hold up till he got out of sight. Meaning that they just did a makeshift job on something. They didn't really fix it very good. They just kind of held it up long enough to get out of sight. Lots of people did licks and promises back in the day to collect a few dollars and get going when they was in a hurry. They didn't really do a real good job on the work they was doing. They left it in dire shape. It just wouldn't hold up. A lick and a promise. Kind of like just, patching stuff up. Another one that folks used a lot is not right in the head. Now, I've actually been accused of that when I was a young boy. And a lot of young boys in the Appalachia, they get that term applied to them when they're acting a fool or cutting up or jesting with other people. They'll say something like that, youngin', he ain't right in the head. Or that boy, he ain't right in the head. Meaning that there's something something wrong with him. That his mind isn't just as strong as maybe as it should be. He's just not right in the head. He's lacking in the head. Another one is sitting on your high horse. Oh, look at them up there, sitting on their high horse. They think they're somebody. Well, sitting on your high horse literally meant that you thought you was somebody, that you thought you're better than somebody else, that you look down at the people around you. You look down on them like you're better than they are, sitting up there on your high horse acting like somebody. That was an everyday term in Appalachia. Another one is the man upstairs. I'm sure many of you have heard that. Of course, that's God they're talking about then. Many Appalachian people didn't like to use the term God in their speech. They used a lot of different terms in order not to use the word God. Another one is too big for your britches. I heard that a lot growing up. Man, he's getting too big for his britches. We're going to have to cut him down a notch or two. He's getting too big for his britches. Somebody's going to have to tell him who he is and bring him back down to earth. Yeah, people getting too big for their britches is getting better than they thought they was. They just thought better of themselves than they really was. They thought they were somebody. Yeah, too big for their britches. This next bunch of terms we're going to use is hillbilly talk that involved like full sayings, I guess. And it includes some twists and turns in it that I think you'll find kind of humorous, and many of you will already know them, I'm sure of that. But the first thing is kin. Yeah. We've got kin all up and down this holler. Well, we've got kin over in another county, and we've even got kin in Tennessee. Well, I heard Grandma say that she had kin all the way over in Tennessee. Well, that just means people that's related to you. Yeah, or even akin, like akin. They're akin to us, meaning they're related to us. And another term that derives right out of that one is kinfolk. Yeah, they're kinfolk. That means that those folks are related to us. That's just a longer term for kinfolk. Same thing. Another one is addled. Well, that thing hit him in the head and addled him. He didn't know where he was at for a few minutes. That meant he was confused. He got all addled. He got confused and mixed up. Yeah, a lot of people get addled. They've been hit in the head with stuff, or they've been knocked off of things and fell and hit their heads, and man, it just addles them. Just leaves them there just all mixed up and confused, don't know what's going on around them. So maybe you've heard that, maybe you've not. Don't forget to like our videos. Share them with your neighbors, or if you don't care, on social media. If you're not subscribed to our channel, do that right now and click that bell icon to be notified of our videos as we upload them in the future. So the next thing we want to talk about here is britches. Yes, britches. Now, back in the day, all the boys wore britches. They didn't wear shorts. Even as a small child, I very rarely ever remember wearing shorts. I wore britches. That's just long pants. Yeah, some of them would have patches on them, or a few little holes in them here and there, but we always wore our britches everywhere we went. Always wore britches. The next thing is buggy. Now, everybody pretty much pictures a buggy in your mind as like the Amish, for example. They have a horse and buggy. The horse pulls the buggy behind them, and the people ride in the buggy. Just it's a means of transportation. And everybody knows what a buggy is, but now Appalachian folk, they call that a buggy, but they also call something else a buggy. And you'll find them at your local IGA, or your local A&P, or your local Kroger. Appalachian folks calls the grocery carts buggies. That's what we put our groceries in, is the grocery buggy. I don't know if you use that term or not, but Appalachian folks here from the hills of Kentucky and Tennessee and North Carolina, many of us call them buggies. The next term is directly. D-R-E-C-K-L-Y, directly. Now, I know many of you haven't heard that, but we used that a lot when I was younger. And the mountain folk here throughout Appalachia, all us hillbillies used that word a lot when we were younger. Directly. I'll be there directly. That means it won't be a long time, but it won't be right now either. It's somewhere in between an extended time and right now. Directly. I'll be there directly. I'm doing something right now. As soon as I get done, I'll be on down there. That's what that means. I'll be there directly. The next term is fix. Now, not fixing to. We already did fixing to. This is fix. I'm going to go in there and fix dinner. Or I'm going to go in there and fix me some buttermilk and cornbread. Or I'm going to go fix me some soup. It's a term relating to preparing food to eat. That's one of our terms that we use to prepare food, is to fix it. We're going to fix the food. We're not going to go in and get something ready or prepare something. We're going to go in and fix it. Yeah. Now, another set of language that the hillbillies and Appalachian folks use is different terms for direction. Now, we don't just give directions like most folks do here in the mountains and up and down these creeks and around the hollers and over the hills. We give directions a little bit different than a lot of other people do, and one of those directions is up yonder a ways. Now, I don't know if you've ever been over yonder or around yonder, but if you have, then you know what I'm talking about. It means you're on the right track, but I don't know exactly how far it is. It's like when you're talking to somebody and they say, how far is it to the local store? And you'd say, it's up yonder a ways. You'd point in that direction, up that road, or up that path, or down that creek bed. It's down yonder a ways. You don't know exactly how far, and they didn't expect you to know sometimes, but they knew if they went in that direction, they'd find it. Because us hillbillies, we had a good sense of direction. Us Appalachian folk knew how to travel through the mountains and get back. We could find our way. We had a good sense of direction. And the next one is down the road a piece. That simply meant, again, that I don't know how far it is, but you're on the right track, and if you keep going there in that direction, you'll get there eventually. It's down the road a piece. So you just keep going in the direction you're going, and you'll find what you're looking for. Another one is as the crow flies. Somebody'd say, how far is it over to Johnny Mac's? Somebody'd say, well, look off over through there and it says a crow flies. Oh, it's probably less than a half a mile. But now you'll have to go down yonder. There'll be a big oak on the right that's been burnt out there beside the creek, and you'll turn right on that path, and you'll have to follow that path across the mountain over there and drop down in the holler and bear right when you get to the base of the holler. He's up the holler there a piece. Might take you an hour or two to get there. But as a crow flies, he's pretty close. And another one is what I just used right then in that sentence. It's down by the creek. Down by the creek. It has nothing to do with your neck. We wake up with cricks in our neck and have to go around doing this through the morning. But down by the creek literally means a small body of water that's flowing. Yeah, a creek, like a creek. That's city folks' creek. That's an Appalachian creek. That's where we went and caught our crawdads, caught our minnows to go fishing with. I wanted to read you a definition that a man wrote of a hillbilly many years ago in a New York Journal article. This was his definition of a hillbilly. He said, a free and untamed white citizen of Alabama. Now, he thought all hillbillies come from Alabama. He obviously didn't know hillbillies and Appalachian folks. We come from all up and down the line. He said, who lives in the hills. Now, he got that right for the most part. Hillbillies and Appalachian people lived in the hills. He has no means to speak of, meaning he doesn't have a job to support himself. And many Appalachian folk didn't work at jobs like that, public places. They worked on their farms and worked in the mountains and did things like that to support their family. They were preppers. Yeah, that's what they were. He says dresses as he can, meaning he doesn't have a big wardrobe. Talks as he pleases, meaning he just uses whatever terms come to mind for whatever situation it might be. He drinks whiskey when he gets it. And now I have to say that there was a lot of Appalachian folks, hillbilly folks that made their own drinks. Now they sure did. Not just whiskey, but they made a lot of their own drinks. Sassafras tea. Oh, they made all kinds of good drinks. And he fires off his revolver as the fancy takes him. And sometimes he'd fire off his shotgun or his long rifle, just depending on what he had handy and what was going on. He might shoot anything. And another one I wanted to share with you is the origin of hillbilly. The term hillbilly, where did it come from? Well, first off, the term hillbilly has long been used to describe people who dwell in rural, mountainous, or hilly regions of the United States, especially in and around the Appalachian and Ozark Mountains. So this is in the southeast region of the United States. And here's where they think that the term hillbilly actually came from. In American culture, the term has come to be used to describe people who live in rural areas where poverty is rampant and the population is not highly educated. The actual word hillbilly may have been devised from the combination of the phrase paired with the Scottish word billies, which means a fine fellow. So, the hillbilly, they think, came from a Scottish word paired with hills, meaning a fine fella, a billy. So, if you're from the Appalachians and you're considered a hillbilly, then according to history, you're going to be considered a fine fella, or a fine lady in that case. And I think that's right pleasing. That sits very well with me, and I'm glad that I found this. So if you all enjoyed the video, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, hit that bell icon to be notified of the videos as we upload them in the future. Don't forget to share a video with your friends and neighbors. Maybe they'll enjoy some of the hillbilly talking in this. But again, thank you all, and we pray that you all are blessed. We pray that if you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, that you look to Him, that you find Him before this life's over. And as we always say, prep your soul and prep your pantry. And we'll see you guys in the next video.